Every time you send a message, stream a show, or ask an AI a question, your request travels at the speed of light to a building you will never visit, a building with no windows, no signs out front, surrounded by razor wire bollards and security cameras tracking every angle. Inside, thousands of servers are processing millions of requests every second, generating enough heat to warm a small town. These are data centers, and most people have no idea what it takes to build one. Today, I'm going to walk you through the entire life cycle of a data center, from an empty plot of land to the moment the first server goes live. By the end, you will understand something that 99% of people never think about: the physical world that makes the digital world possible. Before a single drawing gets produced, somebody has to choose where to build, and that decision is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Data center operators evaluate sites on five critical factors. First, power. A large data center consumes 50 to 100 megawatts of electricity. That is enough to power 40,000 homes. The site needs access to reliable, affordable grid power and ideally renewable energy sources nearby for sustainability targets. Second, connectivity. The site needs proximity to major fiber optic routes. Every millisecond of latency matters when you are processing financial transactions or serving real-time AI responses. Third, climate. Cooler climates reduce cooling costs dramatically. This is why you see enormous data center clusters in Ireland, the Nordics, and the Pacific Northwest. The outside air does half the cooling work for free. Fourth, water. Cooling systems in large data centers can consume millions of liters of water per day. Access to a reliable water supply, and increasingly the political sensitivity around water usage, shapes where these buildings go. Fifth, political and regulatory environment, tax incentives, planning permissions, data sovereignty laws, and local government attitudes all play a role. A country's data protection regulations can determine whether a hyperscaler builds there at all. Once the site is selected and the land is secured, the real work begins. A data center is not just a warehouse with servers in it. It is one of the most complex building types in the world from an engineering perspective. The design phase typically runs 12 to 18 months and involves architects, structural engineers, mechanical engineers for cooling, electrical engineers for power distribution, and specialist data center consultants who coordinate all of it. The single biggest design decision is the redundancy level. An N+1 design means you have one extra of every critical component. If you need 4 cooling units to handle the heat load, you install 5. If one fails, the others cover it. A 2N design means you double everything. 2 completely independent power paths, 2 sets of cooling, 2 of every critical system. If an entire power feed fails, the second one takes over seamlessly. The difference between N+1 and 2N can add 30 to 50% to the construction cost. But for a hyperscaler running billions of dollars of cloud services, a single hour of downtime can cost more than the entire redundancy premium. This is where the building comes to life, and it is a process most people never see. A typical large data center build runs 18 to 24 months from groundbreaking to handover. Some hyperscalers are pushing that down to 12 months using modular construction methods, but the standard timeline involves several overlapping phases. Foundations and structure come first. These buildings carry enormous loads. Server racks, UPS batteries, generators, and cooling equipment add up fast. The structural design has to account for all of it, plus seismic requirements depending on location. Then comes the envelope: walls, roof, weatherproofing, Data centers are typically clad in insulated metal panels. The building needs to be airtight and thermally efficient because controlling the internal environment is everything. Now comes the part that makes data centers unique: the MEP fit out, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. This is where 60 to 70% of the construction budget goes. Not into the walls and roof, but into the systems inside them. The electrical infrastructure alone is staggering. Power comes in from the grid at high voltage, gets stepped down through transformers, distributed through switchgear, backed up by UPS systems and banks of batteries, and finally delivered to each rack through power distribution units. If the grid fails completely, diesel generators kick in within 10 to 15 seconds. Some facilities keep enough fuel on site to run independently for 48 to 72 hours. On the mechanical side, cooling is the constant battle. Servers generate enormous amounts of heat. Traditional data centers use raised floor systems where cold air is pushed up through perforated tiles into cold aisles, flows through the servers, and hot air is extracted from the hot aisles and returned to cooling units. Newer facilities are moving to liquid cooling, where coolant runs directly to the chip level. This is being driven by AI training clusters that generate far more heat per rack than traditional compute. And then there is fire suppression. You cannot spray water on a room full of live electrical equipment. Data centers use gas-based suppression systems, typically using clean agents like Novec or FM200 that extinguish fires by removing heat from the chemical reaction without damaging the hardware. This is the phase that separates a building from a working data center. Commissioning is the systematic process of testing every single system individually and together to prove it works as designed before a single server gets installed. Power systems get tested under full load. Generators are started and run for hours. UPS systems are deliberately switched to battery to verify the transfer is seamless. Cooling systems are tested to prove they can handle the designed heat load. The most dramatic test is the full facility failover. Engineers deliberately cut the main power supply and verify that the entire building switches to backup power without dropping a single server. If that test fails, nobody moves in. Commissioning can take 8 to 12 weeks on a complex facility. It is the final quality gate. Once commissioning is complete, the facility is handed over to the operations team. Servers are delivered, racked, cabled, powered on, and brought into the network. From this point, the building runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. A dedicated facilities team monitors every system around the clock. Temperature, humidity, power draw, cooling performance, and security are all tracked in real time. The building that started as an empty field 2 to 3 years ago is now processing millions of requests per second. Every email you send, every video you stream, every question you ask an AI passes through a building exactly like this one, and somewhere right now another one is being built. If you found this interesting, I go deeper into each of these systems in dedicated videos on this channel. Power architecture, cooling technology, the economics of why these buildings cost what they cost, and the engineering failures that brought the internet down. More of that is coming.